Imagine for a moment where you'll be exactly 365 days from now. Will you be in the same room, struggling with the same habits, feeling that same quiet frustration of knowing you're capable of more, but not knowing how to unlock it? Most people think that to change their life, they need a lightning bolt moment, a massive windfall of luck, or a sudden burst of superhuman willpower. But they are wrong. That is exactly why they fail. Success isn't a mountain you climb in a single leap. It's a series of invisible 1% gains that compound until you are unrecognizable. This book is your manifesto for the 1% edge. Over the next few chapters, we aren't just going to talk about motivation. We are going to rewire your entire approach to achievement. If you can commit to being just 1% better today than you were yesterday, you won't just improve, you will become 37 times more effective by this time next year. This is the math of the top 1%. Let's begin. The myth of the giant leap. We are a culture obsessed with the Big Bang theory of success. We love the Hollywood montage where the protagonist goes from out of shape to an elite athlete in a 3-minute song. We want the overnight, viral success, the lottery win inheritance, and the sudden realization that changes everything. We have been conditioned to believe that for a result to be meaningful, it must be preceded by a monumental, earth-shaking effort. But this is the very lie that keeps you stuck. When you focus on the giant leap, you inadvertently create a massive wall of resistance. Your brain is hardwired for survival, and to your biological mind, massive change looks a lot like danger. This is why your New Year's resolutions usually die by February. You try to change 100% of your life in 1% of the time, and your system rebelled. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. Intensity versus consistency. The 1% mindset requires a radical shift in how you view progress. It requires you to value consistency over intensity. Intensity is impressive in a social media post. It's the guy at the gym for 5 hours on a Monday. But consistency is the person who shows up for 30 minutes every single day, without fail, regardless of how they feel. Intensity is a sprint. Consistency is the steady heartbeat of progress. On your channel, 1% Audiobooks, we talk about the edge. The edge isn't found in the moments where you do something heroic. It is found in the boring moments where you choose the 1% better option instead of the 1% easier option. When you chase the giant leap, you are playing a high-stakes game. If you fail, the fall is devastating. But when you chase the 1% gain, you are building a foundation that is impossible to shake. If you get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. The arrival fallacy. There is a psychological trap known as the arrival fallacy. It is the belief that once you reach a certain destination, the job, the money, the relationship, you will be happy and your problems will vanish. This is why people chase the giant leap. They think the leap will take them to a magical land where effort is no longer required. The top 1% know better. They know that success is not a destination, it is a system of refinement. If you focus only on the goal, you are in a state of failure until you reach it. But if you focus on the 1% system, you are winning every single day that you stick to the process. The system is the reward. The growth is the goal. Breaking the cycle of all or nothing. To master your mindset, you must kill the all or nothing mentality. This is the voice in your head that says, I didn't have time for a full-hour workout, so I might as well not go at all. Or, I ate one bad meal, so the whole day is ruined. The 1% edge means that even when life gets chaotic, you do the minimum viable action. Can't do an hour? Do 5 minutes? Can't read a chapter? Read one page. This keeps the momentum muscle alive. In the world of high performance, momentum is more valuable than perfection. Remember, you don't need a miracle to change your life. You just need to stop underestimating the power of the small, daily win. The giant leap is a myth. The 1% edge is the reality. Now, let's look at the math behind why this works. The math of the 1% edge. To understand the 1% edge, we have to step away from emotion and look at the cold, hard logic of growth. Most people treat progress like a linear equation. They expect that if they put in a certain amount of work, they will see an equal amount of results immediately. But the universe doesn't work in straight lines. The universe works in curves. In 2003, the governing body for professional cycling in Great Britain hired Dave Brailsford. At that point, British cyclists had endured nearly 100 years of mediocrity. They were so unremarkable that one top bike manufacturer refused to sell them equipment because they were afraid it would hurt their brand's reputation. Brailsford didn't promise a revolution. Instead, he looked for the aggregation of marginal gains. The whole principle came from the idea that if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike and then improved it by 1%, you will get a significant increase when you put them all together. The 37x rule. Think of it this way. If you improve by just 1% every single day, you don't just get 365% better by the end of the year, because each tiny gain builds upon the one before it, like interest in a bank account. You actually end up 37 times better than when you started. On the flip side, if you get 1% worse every day for a year, you don't just drop slightly. You decline almost all the way down to zero. This is the hidden trap of the 1% edge. A single 1% mistake doesn't feel like a tragedy. Eating one donut won't make you obese today. Skipping one day of deep work won't ruin your career. But when these 1% declines compound, they create a downward spiral that is incredibly hard to pull out of. Success is simply the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. Your current financial status, your current health, and your current level of productivity are all lagging measures of your habits. You get what you repeat. Time is the friend of the 1% earner, but the enemy of the 1% procrastinator. The Valley of Disappointment. If the logic is so simple, why doesn't everyone do it? The answer lies in the Valley of Disappointment. In the beginning, there is no difference between a 1% improvement and a 1% decline. They look exactly the same. You work out for 2 weeks, and you look the same in the mirror. You study a new language for 10 days, and you still can't hold a conversation. This is where most people quit. They expect progress to be a straight diagonal line. When they don't see results in the first month, they say, "This isn't working," and they stop. But the 1% edge is like an ice cube in a cold room. If the room is 25 degrees and you heat it up 1 degree at a time, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, nothing happens. The ice stays solid. But then you hit 32 degrees. One tiny 1% shift, and the ice begins to melt. The breakthrough was actually the result of all the previous degrees that felt like they did nothing. The power of small wins. To survive the Valley of Disappointment, you must learn to fall in love with small wins. A small win is a 1% victory that proves to yourself that you are the type of person who follows through. On your journey with 1% audiobooks, we don't look for the finish line. We look for the next degree of heat. When you stop obsessing over the 37 times result and start focusing on the 1% action, the pressure disappears. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be 1% better than the version of you that woke up yesterday. That is the only competition that matters. The compound effect in mindset. This logic applies to your thoughts as well. A single negative thought won't ruin your life, but a 1% bias toward negativity, repeated every day, will eventually create a prison of your own making. Conversely, a 1% bias toward radical responsibility will eventually make you an unstoppable force in your field. The math is in your favor. The only variable left is patience. Can you wait for the compound interest to kick in? Or will you quit while the ice is still at 31 degrees? Identity-based habits. The power of self-image. Most people fail at building new habits because they try to change the wrong thing. They focus on what they want to achieve, the outcome, rather than who they want to become. This is the difference between outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. To get that 1% edge, we have to look deeper than your to-do list. We have to look at your self-image. Imagine two people resisting a cigarette. When offered a smoke, the first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." It sounds like a reasonable response, but this person still believes they are a smoker who is trying to be something else. They are hoping their willpower will override their identity. The second person declines by saying, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, "I'm the type of person who wants this." It's something quite different to say, "I'm the type of person who is this." The 3 layers of change. Think of behavior change like an onion with 3 layers. The outer layer is outcomes: losing 10 pounds, publishing a book, or earning more money. Most of the goals you set are at this level. The second layer is processes, your systems, like your morning routine or your workflow. But the deepest layer is identity, your beliefs, your worldviews, and how you see yourself. If you only change the outer layers but keep your old identity, you are essentially building a house on a foundation of sand. This is why 1% Audiobooks focuses so heavily on mindset. If you view yourself as a procrastinator, no amount of productivity apps will save you. You will eventually 1% yourself back into your old patterns because that's who you believe you are. To experience a permanent transformation, you must shift your focus from "I want to run a marathon" to "I am a runner." When you are a runner, you don't have to convince yourself to put on your shoes. You do it because it's part of your DNA. Your habits are how you embody your identity. Every time you make your bed, you embody the identity of an organized person. Every time you write a page, you embody the identity of a writer. The voting system of success. How do you actually change your identity? You can't just repeat "I am a millionaire" in the mirror and expect it to happen. Identity is built through evidence. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single 1% action will transform your identity overnight, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new self. If you go to the gym once, it doesn't make you an athlete. But if you show up for 30 days straight, even for just 10 minutes, you have cast 30 votes for being an athlete. You are proving to yourself that you are no longer the person who sits on the couch. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is simply to win the majority of the votes. This is why the 1% gain is so powerful. It is a small, undeniable piece of evidence. When you read just one page of a book, you have cast a vote for being a reader. When you choose water over soda, you have cast a vote for being a healthy person. These small wins are the building blocks of a new self-image. Why you self-sabotage? Have you ever wondered why you hit a certain level of success and then suddenly mess it up? It's often because your progress has outpaced your identity. If you start making top 1% money, but you still view yourself as someone who is bad with finances, you will unconsciously find ways to spend or lose that money to return to your internal comfort zone. To maintain your 1% edge, you must constantly upgrade and expand your identity. Ask yourself, what would a productive person do right now? What would a leader do in this situation? By asking these questions, you stop acting based on your past and start acting based on the identity you are building. True behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but you'll only stick to it because it becomes who you are. Actionable identity shifting. Start today with 2 simple steps. First, decide the type of person you want to be. Do you want to be a disciplined entrepreneur, a focused creator, a resilient athlete? Second, prove it to yourself with small 1% wins. Want to be a writer? Write 1 paragraph every morning. Cast the vote. Want to be a person of focus? Put your phone in another room for 15 minutes of work. Cast the vote. Want to be an achiever? Finish 1 small task you've been putting off. Cast the vote. The 1% edge is about more than just results. It is about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are becoming the person you were always meant to be. In the next chapter, we will look at how to design your environment to make these votes almost automatic. Environment design, the path of least resistance. Most of us believe that the primary difference between the top 1% and everyone else is willpower. We imagine that high achievers are simply better at gritting their teeth and forcing themselves to do the hard things. But the science of behavior change suggests something far more interesting. The most disciplined people are actually the ones who use their willpower the least. Willpower is like a battery. Every time you have to resist a temptation or force yourself to focus, you drain that battery. By the end of the day, your battery is empty, and that's when you find yourself scrolling through your phone for 3 hours or eating junk food. The 1% edge isn't about having a bigger battery. It's about designing a life where you don't drain your battery in the first place. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. The willpower myth. In a famous study, researchers found that people with high self-control actually spend less time resisting temptations than people with low self-control. Why? Because they structure their lives to avoid those temptations entirely. They don't keep snacks in the house, they don't keep their phone on their desk, and they don't rely on motivation to get to the gym. If you want to be 1% more productive, stop trying to be stronger. Start trying to be smarter. You are the architect of your surroundings. If your environment is designed for distraction, you will be distracted. If it is designed for focus, you will be focused. It is much easier to change your room than it is to change your brain. On your journey with 1% Audiobooks, we look for the small tweaks in your physical and digital space that make the right choice the easiest choice. Make it easy to do right and hard to do wrong. Priming the environment. The concept of priming is about preparing your environment for future actions. It is the art of making the 1% gain feel like the path of least resistance. If you want to work out in the morning, don't just decide to do it. Set your shoes, your clothes, and your water bottle right next to your bed the night before. When you wake up, you don't have to make a decision. The decision has already been made by your past self. You have removed the friction of getting started. This is environment priming. Conversely, you can use friction to break bad habits. If you spend too much time on social media, delete the apps from your phone and only use them on a desktop computer. The 1% increase in effort required to log in is often enough to stop the mindless habit in its tracks. Friction is the enemy of progress for good habits, but it is your best friend for bad ones. Visual cues and the 1% space. Our brains are highly visual. We often do things simply because they are in our line of sight. If there is a bowl of fruit on the counter, you'll eat fruit. If there is a remote control on the coffee table, you'll watch TV. To master your mindset, you must curate your visual field. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow every morning. If you want to drink more water, put 3 full bottles on your desk at the start of the day. You don't need more motivation, you just need more cues. Your habits are often a response to the signals you receive from your environment. The digital environment. For the modern achiever, your digital environment is just as important as your physical one. Your phone is a portal to a world designed by thousands of engineers to steal your attention. To reclaim your 1% edge, you must take control of your digital space. The grayscale trick. Turn your phone screen to grayscale. It removes the dopamine hit from the bright icons. Notification cleanse. Turn off every notification that isn't from a real human being. If a machine is buzzing in your pocket, it's controlling you. The workstation ritual. Have a specific chair or a specific desk where you only do deep work. Over time, your brain will associate that physical location with focus. By shifting your environment, you stop being a victim of your surroundings and start being the architect of your success. In the next chapter, we will discuss what happens when the environment is perfect, but the results still haven't arrived. How to survive the plateau of latent potential. The plateau of latent potential. Surviving the silence. In the previous chapters, we discussed the math of the 1% edge and the power of identity. But now we have to address the hardest part of the process. The long, quiet period where nothing seems to be happening. This is what researchers call the plateau of latent potential, and it is the graveyard where most dreams go to die. Imagine you are heating an ice cube. It is sitting on a table in a room that is 25 degrees. You work hard to increase the temperature. You get it to 26, 27, 28. You are putting in the energy. You are making the 1% effort. But the ice cube is still there, unmoved. To an outside observer, and often to yourself, it looks like you are failing. But you aren't failing. You are storing potential. Complaining about not achieving success despite working hard is like complaining about an ice cube not melting when you heated it from 25 to 31 degrees. Your work was not wasted, it is being stored. All the action happens at 32 degrees. The bamboo tree paradox. There is a species of Chinese bamboo that provides a perfect metaphor for the 1% journey. Once the seed is planted, you must water it and fertilize it every single day. For the first year, nothing happens. For the second year, nothing happens. For the fourth year, there is still no sign of life above the soil. Then, in the 5th year, the bamboo tree grows 90 feet in just 6 weeks. The question is, did the bamboo tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years? The answer, of course, is 5 years. If at any point the farmer had stopped watering that empty patch of dirt, the tree would have died in the ground. The 1% edge requires the faith of the farmer. On your path with 1% audiobooks, you will have days, perhaps weeks or months, where you feel like you are just watering dirt. You are reading the books, you are doing the deep work, and you are eating the healthy meals. But the tree hasn't broken the surface. This is the test. This is where the top 1% are separated from the rest. The breakthrough moment is often the result of many previous actions, which build up the fuel required to unleash a major change. The danger of outcome obsession. The reason the plateau is so dangerous is that we are addicted to feedback. We live in a world of instant notifications and likes. When we don't get that hit of success immediately, our brain assumes the system is broken. We revert to our old 1% negative habits because they provide a more immediate, though destructive, reward. To survive this plateau, you must move your focus away from outcomes and toward operating standards. An outcome is losing 20 pounds. An operating standard is, I never miss a Monday workout. You can control your standards. You cannot always control the timing of your outcomes. When you focus on the 1% gain, you give yourself permission to win every day, regardless of what the scale or the bank account says. You are no longer waiting for the big result to feel successful. You feel successful because you did what you said you were going to do. How to stay motivated in the dark. So, how do you keep going when the results are invisible? You need to build process-based joy. Here are the 3 ways to master the plateau. Visual tracking. Use a habit tracker or a simple calendar. Put an X on every day you hit your 1% goal. Your only job is to not break the chain. The chain becomes the visual evidence of your stored potential. Celebrate the non-scale victories. In fitness, this is feeling your clothes fit better. In business, it's a difficult conversation that you handled with calm. These are 1% indicators that the temperature is rising. Radical patience. Understand that the more massive the goal, the longer the plateau. A skyscraper requires a much deeper foundation than a shed. If your life feels like it's stuck in the foundation phase, it's because you are building something huge. Mastery requires patience. The top 1% are simply those who are willing to stay in the plateau of latent potential longer than anyone else. Trusting the math. Remember the math from Chapter 2. Compounding is backloaded. Most of the rewards of a 1% improvement come at the very end of the cycle, not the beginning. If you quit now, you are essentially walking away from the interest on all the work you've already done. The ice is at 31 degrees. You are closer than you have ever been. Don't stop heating the room. In the next chapter, we will give you the specific tools to accelerate this process, the 1% productivity stack. The 1% productivity stack. Tools for modern mastery. By now, you understand the philosophy of the 1% edge. You know that identity drives habits and that your environment dictates your ease of success. But how do you apply this to the chaotic reality of a Monday morning? To reach the top 1%, you need a productivity stack, a set of reliable, repeatable systems that remove the need for guesswork. Productivity is often misunderstood. Most people think it means doing more things, faster. But true productivity, the kind that creates massive wealth and impact, is about doing the right things consistently. It is about moving the needle 1% every single day without burning out. Here are the 4 pillars of the 1% productivity stack. Productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. 1. The 2-minute rule for starting. The hardest part of any 1% gain is the transition from doing nothing to doing something. In physics, an object at rest stays at rest. To overcome this, use the 2-minute rule. The rule is simple. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Read 50 books a year becomes read 1 page. Run a marathon becomes put on my running shoes. The goal is not the outcome. The goal is mastering the art of showing up. Once you start, the friction disappears. It is easy to continue an action once you are already in motion. You have to standardize before you can optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. 2. Habit stacking. The neural shortcut. Your brain is full of established neural pathways, habits you do without thinking, like brushing your teeth or making coffee. You can piggyback on these pathways to make new 1% gains effortless. This is called habit stacking. The formula is, after current habit, I will new 1% habit. For focus, after I sit down at my desk, I will put my phone in a drawer. For growth, after I pour my morning coffee, I will read 2 pages of a non-fiction book. For health, after I close my laptop for the day, I will do 10 push-ups. By anchoring a new behavior to an old one, you remove the decision fatigue that usually kills new habits. You aren't trying to remember to do something new, you are simply adding a link to an existing chain. The best way to build a new habit is to tie it to an existing one. 3. Time boxing and the power of deep work. The top 1% of achievers do not multitask. Multitasking is a myth that allows you to be 1% worse at many things simultaneously. Instead, they use time boxing. This means assigning a specific block of time to a single task and nothing else. If you want to master a skill or build a business, you need deep work. This is a state of distraction-free concentration where your brain functions at its peak. Even just 60 minutes of deep work per day, where the phone is off and the door is closed, will put you ahead of 99% of the population who are constantly reacting to notifications. Remember, a focused hour is worth more than a distracted day. Protect your time blocks like your life depends on them, because your future identity does. 4. The 1% audit, the weekly review. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Every Sunday, the high achiever performs a 1% audit. They ask themselves 3 questions. What went well this week? Identify the 1% wins to keep the momentum. What didn't go well? Identify the 1% leaks in the system. What is one tiny thing I can improve next week? This audit prevents you from drifting. It ensures that your compounding is moving in the right direction. If you find you've been declining 1%, don't judge yourself. Just adjust the system. The audit is your compass. Success is a game of margins. The 1% audit ensures those margins are always in your favor. Applying the stack. Don't try to implement all of these today. That would be a giant leap mistake. Instead, pick one pillar. Maybe it's the 2-minute rule for your evening reading, or habit stacking for your morning vitamins. Master that one tool until it becomes part of who you are. The 1% productivity stack isn't about working harder. It's about building a machine that works for you. When your systems are strong, success becomes inevitable rather than accidental. In our final chapter, we will bring everything together to ensure you stay on this path for the next 365 days and beyond. The 365-day transformation. Your day 1. We began this journey with a question. Where will you be exactly 365 days from now? Through the chapters of this book, we have deconstructed the myth of the giant leap and replaced it with the reality of the 1% edge. You now possess the blueprint that the top 1% use to build lives of purpose, productivity, and peace. You understand that success is a lagging measure of your habits. You know that your bank account is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your health is a lagging measure of your eating habits, and your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. You no longer have to worry about the future because you know that if you take care of the 1% today, the future takes care of itself. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. The identity of the finisher. As you finish this audio, you are already different from the person who started it. By staying until the end, you have already cast a significant vote for your new identity. The identity of a finisher. Most people start things. Very few finish them. You have just proven to yourself that you are part of the 1% who sees things through to the end. But the real work begins when the audio stops. The 1% edge is not a philosophy to be studied. It is a practice to be lived. It is what you do when you're tired. It is how you react when you fail. It is the small, invisible choice to do just one more rep, write one more paragraph, or stay focused for 5 more minutes. Remember the math. 37 times better in 1 year. That transformation doesn't happen in the 365th day. It happens in the tiny, microscopic gains made in the first hour of tomorrow morning. Success is not a goal to be reached, but a system to be lived. Your final challenge. Before you move on with your day, I want to give you one final 1% challenge. Do not try to overhaul your life this afternoon. Instead, identify one tiny action, something that takes less than 2 minutes, that aligns with the person you want to become. Do it right now. Don't wait for perfect timing, because perfect timing is a trap. There is only now. If you want to be a person of growth, make learning a daily habit. If you found value in this journey, consider making 1% audiobooks a part of your daily environment design. Surround yourself with the ideas, the mindsets, and the systems that make your success inevitable. The valley of disappointment will come. The plateau of latent potential will test your resolve. But now, you have the tools to survive them. You have the math on your side. You have the environment designed for your success. And most importantly, you have the identity of an achiever. Go out and win your 1% today. Your future self is already thanking you. This concludes our journey today. Thank you for listening. If you found value in this, please leave a like. It really helps the channel. I'd also love to hear your favorite takeaway in the comments below. Subscribe for more audiobooks, and I'll see you in the next one.